What is going on, guys? Welcome back to our Sunday divisional playoff matchups, and we are going to be starting with the Chiefs and the Browns. This one should be fun. Anytime we have a Chiefs slate, we know that it is stud loaded, so we will get into the slate. But please, if you are not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button below. That is the greatest way you can support this channel and this free content here, and we greatly appreciate that. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, throw me any comment. If you have a question about your showdown build today, maybe a 1v1, 2v2, I will do my best to try to help answer that question. So without further ado, let's get into the slate. I think this slate comes with a lot of emotion and energy, especially considering the Browns' big win last week. I think there's a lot of momentum they're going to take into a game like this. But I don't think that it is something that, I try not to let those types of narrative things like drive my building. I stick to try to be more analytical and statistical. But so we have the Browns here against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a 10-point favorite. Um, I think I think that's pretty accurate. And I think even though last week the Browns proved us wrong, I think there was a lot of fluke plays. I think there was really poor performance by Roethlisberger. I'm not discounting the Browns' performance at all. I thought it was they played really well, but I don't know that they're going to hold up here against somebody like the Chiefs. So over under is 57.5. So we expect points. A 10-point favorite. So you're expecting the Browns probably 2 to 3 touchdowns, and the Chiefs, obviously looking closer to that 4. So let's get into the builds. Let's start on the Chiefs side. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the studs because we know what they're capable of. And what I always tell people on slates with the Chiefs is that if you can just fit all three of them in, you don't have to decide which one you're going to get wrong, because more often than not, typically they all three produce. Mahomes spreads the ball. Tyreek Hill has been less deep ball dependent this year. They have been getting him the ball more often in the short game and letting him run after the catch, which not only has created a floor for someone like Tyreek Hill, but it's created consistency with still that upside, that they are still taking their shots, but they're not solely depending on that for him to be productive. So Patrick Mahomes at 12,000 will be the first click for almost every single person on the slate. And I cannot fault them for that, because I think he is probably the easiest plug and play on a slate like this. Now, you've seen even here in the recent weeks, he hasn't had the upside games that we've seen from him like last year and recently. So I don't think that you have to use him in the captain spot. I think in cash games, a lot of people will go that way because he just presents such a high floor with the added ceiling. But I do think Kelsey and Tyreek Hill can do something similar. So both of them coming in with phenomenal matchups here. I think Cleveland should be getting some of their defenders back, which will definitely help. But Travis Kelsey having one of the best tight end years anybody has ever seen. Consistently has 6 to 8 catches, sometimes more. The 100-yard bonus is firmly always in play for him. He has great touchdown equity. So love Travis Kelsey at 10,600. I don't think there's any reason to fade. Tyreek Hill, as I mentioned before, 10,400 this year. Like, look at the target share: 10, 7, 11, 15, 14, 18. And these are all games that were just close. It's not like Travis Kelsey wasn't playing. So I think it's really tough to fade somebody like Tyreek Hill in a playoff game that's expected to be closer than normal. And I will say, similar to like the Bills, and we saw this yesterday, even when the Bills get the lead, they still were afraid to run the ball. So I just don't see, especially if Hilaire is out, I just don't see them pounding the rock, even if they get a lead. I think they use their short passing game to kind of mimic a running game that continues to get the clock rolling. So that brings to probably the biggest news of the entire slate is Edwards-Helaire. Did not practice on Friday. Obviously, today is Sunday. That's not good news. Obviously, I think, when you're preparing for a game like this, you want the guys that you're going to be using in the game to be practicing. I think it's a little bit different than a normal week. Saying that, 6,600 is extremely cheap. If he is ruled in without limitations, which I don't think is going to be the case, I think if he's ruled in, it will still come with some baggage of being limited. So I think that will almost muddle things more than anything. So if he's in, it makes it just easier to just fade everybody. But if he is out, that's where this slate becomes really interesting. Not that it's not already interesting, but you have Le'Veon Bell at 5,800, who will presumably, in my opinion, be probably just the starter. But I don't know that he's going to carry the workload that we've seen in the past. There's another couple weeks. I mean, he never really. There's been a couple weeks Hilaire has been out in here, and I don't remember which ones exactly. Maybe week 13 against Denver, where he saw 11 carries, a couple catches, but he was priced at 2,400. You were playing him no matter what. But now with Darwin Thompson, who performed so well in week 17, I think, they've come out and said that they could potentially rotate both of them in. Or wait, sorry, not Darwin Thompson. Yeah. Darwin Thompson was phenomenal in week. Yeah, sorry. Darwin Thompson was amazing in week 17, but they would be splitting these carries between Le'Veon Bell and Darrell Williams. And Darrell Williams is 600. So if Hilaire is out, Darrell Williams is probably the lock of the slate, especially if they are saying that he may, split sometime with Le'Veon Bell. But I would expect Bell to be the absolute starter in this situation. So I think, it says down here, Bell and Darrell Williams will stand to handle the top roles in the backfield. So if Hilaire is out, then I think that definitely brings in Williams into play, because I think truly, even though we saw Yeldon not really carry the ball at all until the very end of the game today or last night for Buffalo, I think you actually would see some rotation with Williams and Bell if Hilaire is out. So Sammy Watkins is out. That's really significant. It definitely brings into play Robinson, who will be on the field a ton, but who it also really brings into play is Mecole Hardman at 1,800, which I absolutely love at that price tag. I think he'll be extremely popular. Probably one of my favorite values on the entire slate, along with the kickers per usual. Butker will also be a popular option. So make sure you check that news. Yeah, so sorry. So not Darwin Thompson. Be on the lookout for Darrell Williams to get some carries if Le'Veon Bell is out. And hopefully we just get news around that as we get closer to lock. So Pringle is GPP if only for me. And that is about it for unless you want to go for a Sherman touchdown at the goal line, I will pass on the rest of Kansas City. So let's get into the Cleveland side. Now, this is where it's going to be really difficult to just go plug and play the guys that you're normally playing here on a Cleveland slate, because you want to allocate so much of your salary to the Kansas City side. And Baker Mayfield at 9,800 in a game that they are going to be losing likely, and he's going to be chucking. I think you can certainly make the case to why he's important to play. I think on the other hand, you can make a case then to just play somebody like Jarvis Landry for 1,400 less, and also just be expecting that it's a positive game script for Landry. Kareem Hunt, 7,200 compared to Nick Chubb at 9,400. A lot of people faded Chubb, and myself included, against Pittsburgh. Actually didn't end up mattering because all the Pittsburgh receivers did so well anyway. But I think this is another case where I just can't see myself playing him over Kelsey or Hill. And if I'm going to pay up for one Cleveland player, I prefer it to be somebody part of the passing game. So that's kind of my goal here. And I think Rashad Higgins at 5,000 makes a lot of sense. Kareem Hunt in like a losing situation where they're dumping it off quite often makes sense. Austin Hooper in one of the best possible matchups makes a lot of sense. So I think I'm not going to likely be getting to Chubb in this slate, even though he obviously presents a lot of consistency and upside. And if for some reason they get a lead, then he will be probably an elite play at 9,400. Cody Parkey in play. I don't always love the kickers against KC as much, just because once they get trailing by too much, the depending on the score can really flip. If they're going for two, if they're going for it on fourth down. So he's definitely in play. I just prefer Bucker. Njoku, you want to watch out for the news on him. Listed as questionable. I think he'll play, but as we saw last week, with Njoku and Harrison Bryant Harrison Bryant's only 400. Harrison Bryant, and I think the difference in snaps they played is 1. And Harrison Bryant, I don't think had a target. No, he didn't. Now the game flow definitely went away from somebody like him even being targeted at all. But I would say in a game like this, he presents a ton of value at 400. So I think he's a great play as well. Donovan Peoples-Jones is only 800, but they are expected to activate Hodge at 200, who was the previous wide receiver number 3 for Cleveland. So again, when he gets activated, if we don't get any news, then I think you go ahead with understanding that probably Peoples-Jones, maybe because he's played more recently, is ahead of Hodge on the depth chart, but it does just make the situation in general more muddled and not as clear. So I would rather see like Njoku out and then not worry about Peoples-Jones and Hodge, and then just be able to plug in somebody like Bryant, who I think they still will use 2 tight end sets even when they're losing. So let's get into the slate as a whole and go through some potential builds. Now I'm going to right now just build as if Hilaire is in, and that I'm going to likely just be fading that running game in general. So obviously my 3 favorite cash plays are going to be the top 3 Kansas City players, and this leaves you with 3,600 left. There's a couple ways you can go here. I still think you can get up to 1 stud if you want. So right now, let's go and just start plugging in a couple value plays. Let's plug in Hardman, who I think will be popular with Sammy Watkins out. And then let's just say you're going to go to Harrison Bryant. This gives you the ability right now to even get up to Landry, not quite up to Mayfield. But if you wanted to get to Mayfield here, maybe you consider going somebody cheaper at captain like Tyreek Hill. And then it's still, you're 200 away. So you could make a pivot from Hardman down to somebody like say Hilaire is out. Now you could go Williams, you could go Baker, and if you wanted to even go up from Bryant, you can't quite get back to Hardman, but you could get to Pringle, you could get to Njoku or Peoples-Jones. And in this build, if you wanted to, instead of playing Baker, you wanted Chubb, that makes it even easier because you could still get there than with using Hardman. So there's definitely a path to getting up to a stud Cleveland player. I think there's another path that if you just want to really be stacked on KC and you want to use Butker, and again, I'm just kind of presuming Hilaire's in and I'm kind of fading that part of the game in general, and I want Hardman, you could still use Higgins, who provides a lot of value at 5,000 if they're losing. So, and then even here, if you don't want to play Butker, you could play Parkey. You could go cheaper at captain and then go up to Robinson, who I think will be on the field a ton as well. So, and then the other option, the last option I'll show you here is using these 3 again, and then using somebody like Jarvis Landry. And if you're using Hardman, and then you're maybe using Peoples-Jones, or you use Njoku, at this case, you could even go back up to Mahomes, and maybe you get in Darrell Williams because Hilaire is out. So there's a ton of ways to go. I don't think I'll be paying up for more than 1 Cleveland Browns player. And I likely will be locking in the top 3 for Kansas City. I think in any GPP format that you want to fade Tyreek Hill for Baker, I can see that being something maybe viable because the game script, and Baker being a quarterback, I think we know in the playoffs he's going to be chucking a ton here if they're down. I think the 20-point upside for somebody like him is really in play. So I think just make sure you monitor that and see where your projections land. So thanks for listening. Check out my other video for the Tampa Bay New Orleans game that will also be available on this channel. And NHL will be back tomorrow. It's only a 2-game slate today, so we will not have a puck drop for that. So thanks for listening. See you later.